Hello everyone. In this topic, we'll be discussing about availability. Availability we'll be looking from the two aspects. One is from the aspect of serving the requests. The other aspect is from the data. What do I mean by these two aspects? So coming to the first, uh, let's say we are getting a lot of customer requests, so do I have enough instances which can serve those requests? So the availability of the application servers, that is one aspect to look at. Okay, so whenever I am doing the system design, do I have enough servers at any given point of time uh, to manage the requests? The other aspect that we are looking is of the data. Now, data, as you know, data is very critical, especially customer data, which is the transactional data. It's very critical. We cannot afford to lose it. If we are losing it or if we're tampering with it, you'll never be able to do your business. Your solution will never sell because there is no credibility of your solution. You are simply uh, tampering with the data. So think of an example. You made, let's say I'm using phone pay. I made a transaction of rupees 50,000, and when I'm going back to history and checking it, it is showing me, instead of 50,000, it is showing me, let's say, 4,500. So just imagine from the customer's point, will I ever choose a phone pay, or let's say any application which does this tampering of the data? Will I ever choose as my platform of payments? Definitely not, right? So it's very important that when we are dealing with customer data, we deal it like a treasure. There should never be any tampering. There should never be, um it should never get lost. I made a transaction of 50,000, and when I go back to history, I'm not able to see it. Imagine my state, anybody's state, right? It's not a small amount that we are talking of. It's not just in the payments, but in any other domain. If you go, a transaction, the client's data is a treasure, and it should be dealt with lots of caution. So, um, it has to be, the data when we are looking at, it should never be tampered. It should be easily accessible, and if I'm the right person to see it, I should be able to see it. I should be able to view my transactions. I should not have the permission to view other transactions, right? So like CIA concept of security. So data is very important. So that data should be available whenever I'm requesting. It should never be tampered. So one concept, one lens through which we see is the data concept. The availability of the data should be there. So now if I go on to explain, like I have application servers which are constantly communicating with the databases, and definitely they are decoupled as we are talking of distributed systems. So they are continuously pushing the data, since there are a lot of transactions, inserts, updates, writes and reads are constantly happening with the database. So let's say if I just have one database, now if it goes down, uh, what would happen? I'm losing the entire client's data. So what is the way? How can you deal with it? One is you can take the backup and store it in your data centers, so that even if the database goes down, you have the exact data, and then you are loading onto, you check what is wrong with your DB, and then you make it up and you push the entire data. That is one way to go about. But if there is only one data and there are so many customer requests, so suddenly everything stops working, your application service starts failing, all the requests would start failing. So again, a very bad user experience. So you definitely need a lot of instances of database servers again, I mean database. So even if you have too many databases, you have to have, the backups from all those instances. So how often are we taking up the backups? Whether it is, I mean, definitely it is going to be in some period, but how often? Is it going to be in 6 months? Is it going to be on a daily basis, or is it going to be every second basis? So that is how we are speaking of, we are looking at. Okay, so the concept of, this having of this backup is, we have three concepts. One is the cold standby, the other is hot standby, the other is warm standby. So cold standby, as the name suggests, you are very rarely taking the backup. It's very rare. And the other is warm standby, maybe in a day or on 2 days you're taking up the backup. The hot standby, you can imagine it's something like every 5 minutes or 2 seconds or even 1 second you are taking up the backup. So that's pretty intensive. So this was the concept of backups from your databases. So that is what the availability means, that you always have the data in the very format. And even if your system fails, for any point of time it goes unavailable, you're still able to get the entire set of data back to your system. So that's what availability is. So the availability forms a very crucial concept in distributed system. It's very important. You can read more about this, of course, on MongoDB and any other uh, blogs. There are a lot of good blogs, you can go through it. MongoDB is one of my favorite. I go through their guides, and it's they explain it very nicely. So go through it. Nowadays, even you have this replication, but the replication is different from what is called um, the backups. Okay, so replication is like, in one instances, let's of the database, you got the information that that data needs to be replicated to other databases as well. So let's say at any point of time one instance of the DB goes down, so you have that information available across all other DB instances. You don't need to go to your data centers to just to push it into all other instances. So that is what the replication ensures. So it is also one of the mechanisms to ensure the availability of your data. So um, if I, as a PhonePe user, I made a 50,000 payment, and when I'm going back to history, so let's say the data where my 50,000 history data was stored, it goes down of that particular instance. It should be available in other instances of your databases, so that whenever I'm requesting it, it would fetch from the other DB instances. The application server would fetch from the other DB instances, right? So that is what the availability is. I hope this was clear. Go through the blogs and read more about it. I'm sure you'll learn much more from different websites too. So thank you. That's all. Thank you so much.